started. Okay, let's get started.
What time did you lose control?
Safety is here, so now we can get started.
Safety isn't over yet?
No, not yet. It's going to be really short tonight.
Yeah.
No, actually, well, I'm going to make it as long as possible. We're supposed to have Ken Banner come here with speakers, and he's running late. So, okay, welcome to the March Air Force Base Aero Club safety meeting for October, and we're fortunate tonight because we don't have Bob here to talk to us, so we might get out earlier. So, thanks, Malcolm. So, what I'm going to do is jump right into it, and everybody knows the routine except for the new people. Okay, any new people that has not been introduced before? Okay, stand up and introduce yourself. And
my name's Daniel. Currently an IFR student. I wish I would have known about this flight club 2-3 years ago when I got out of active duty. So joining the Civil Air Patrol, I've actually found out about it, so I'm looking to check it out and just get more flight time.
okay, all right. Welcome. Okay, anybody else? Okay.
Hello everybody, I'm Chris. I'm coming here to check out your guys' flight program. I'm an IFR student at Mount Stack.
Okay.
Yeah. Andrew told me about this program, so it's
Okay.
really interesting. It's pretty cool.
All right, thank you. All right, let's see. I don't see our new flight instructor here. See, that doesn't look good when a brand new flight instructor doesn't show up. Yeah, we have a new flight instructor, Christopher Brown, and he's going to be able to do a little more on weekends for those of you who need to have the weekends. So hopefully it'll work out for some of you guys. I know some of you guys like to do the weekends, and I know John Law, he'd like to have weekends off if he could. He's been working, through the week and then on weekends. Jerry has been working on weekends too. Hopefully they don't dump elder students on this poor guy. Yeah, I can see it coming. So, all right. Okay, anybody else that I missed that's new? Okay, come on. Yeah, come on. It's been, what, 3 years? Yeah. All right, come on. I'm not going to make you, but I might charge you more money for your flights. Yeah. You're in the Navy, right? Yeah, Navy Reserves, and so you were gone for quite a while, right? For that, yeah. Well, that's good. Okay.
So hello everyone, Mitchell Jones.
I think it's that one.
So I got my ticket in 2011 and I left to go to Afghanistan. So
You made it back, yes.
a little time with Sandbox.
Yeah. I wanted you to tell them where you've been. I can't tell you. I mean, I'm not supposed to say anything.
So a year in Afghanistan and then another year in Guantanamo Bay.
Well, that's a wow.
You were the one who released those guys? No. Is that your deal? No, not my deal. Not my deal.
Not your doing. Can't blame you. Okay. Well. All right. Now, new pilot ratings. Now I know we don't have anybody here that's done anything in the last month or so I guess we can skip over this, right, Joan? Come on, Joan, stand up. Yeah.
3 airplanes?
Well, yeah, just because I broke your airplane the first time.
Well, anyway.
All right, yeah, Joan just got her private pilot's license, and she worked really hard for it, I tell you. For those of you that know, you know that. Yeah, and she's about ready to be put in the newspaper, so here, they're gonna do a little article in the newspaper. And Bill, her husband, hides in the back, so he doesn't.
And I tell him, don't touch anything when I'm the PIC.
Yes. Yes. See, Bill caught.
Shut up, Bill.
I hear that a lot.
That probably works at home, too.
Actually, what Bill does, he sleeps now and lets her fly. See, yeah, see now he can do that. So, congratulations, Joan. We really do. We've been rooting for you. Okay.
I know I'm glad it happened because the night after I broke her airplane, I ran into her at French Valley. That was uncomfortable.
Oh. A little upset, right? Yeah.
I was crying in my beer.
Okay, anybody else has done anything, and that includes anybody, it doesn't have to be just Aero Club airplanes. Some of you guys that fly commercial airliners and Air Force planes can, if you've done anything, any accomplishments, passed your check rides. I know a couple of you guys have done some recalls, you know, in the airplane. Jerry took up, let's see, what you took, what, or was it John that took? Yeah, Scott Schwartz. Yeah, you had your annual done, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I didn't think that was newsworthy.
Well, yeah, it's newsworthy. Everybody's got to know if you're. They got to know you're a good pilot. Wow, I mean, come on, let's don't trivialize, you know, your flying.
Well, if we're doing annual check rides.
Okay, 3 weeks ago. Okay, okay. Yeah, that's. I mean, you know, it's.
You have to do that since on your book.
Actually flew an airplane, that's a plus.
Yeah, I know. You know, here at the club, we fly the actual airplane for most of all our stuff, and, instead of a simulator. And so, how about experiences? Has anybody had any experiences that they could share with the club?
I didn't break any airplanes in October.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Hey,
I don't know
Jerry.
if we got any fixed in October either.
Hey, Jerry.
Well, Phil had a question. He said, if you lose total electrical power, what's the last thing that'll stay lit in 1-5 Foxtrot? And what do you think?
Your cigarette. Wait, no.
The flashers. When everything else goes dark, the flashers are still
I
on.
tell you, everything went dark pretty quickly.
Well, it goes quickly, but the flashers stayed on all the way from the runway to the parking space. So the tower could see us. But they work intermittently. No?
The passenger just takes a little longer to load up.
That's an inside joke.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
So as long as the fan in the front keeps it working, you're okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, as long as that keeps you cool.
Hard to see up there.
Okay. Anybody? Let's see. George, is you here tonight? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Come on. I know you got some stories. Do you have any stories? You always have stories. You were
I'm
gone.
having a birthday party at Fallbrook this coming Saturday, 50th anniversary, so he invited, everyone in here is invited.
Okay. Okay.
That Fallbrook Airport?
I'll leave the light on for you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Aero Club manager, he's not here, but I can read off some real. So he gave me a long list of things here to read. I'll cover only one or two. He wants to cover cleaning of aircraft, especially 1-5 Foxtrot and 2-9. They need to be cleaned off, especially on the leading edge of the wings. And you also got, sometimes you get oil on them too, just like the T-34 is only not quite as bad, but unless you got a real leak or something. Let's see, all CAP members, we need to have your driver's license. Actually, yeah, what they need this for is for the front gate up there. So They need to have your driver's license number. In the sign-in sheet, the very last page on the sign-in sheet is, your name should be on that, and so we need to have that, so we can turn it in to these guys. For Civil Air Patrol, it's getting tighter. They're no longer accepting people on the base anymore with your ID card, even if it's got a picture on it. Of course, it still depends on who's at the front gate. So, you know, sometimes you get a guy up there that knows who you are and seen you before and lets you in. But they're getting increasingly harder as far as letting you in. And so we've been having to send up there at least once a week a list of names for them to check against. So try to get your license number on that sheet on the back at least. And if not, then, you know, at least give me a call or send me an email. Let's see, credit cards, yeah, okay. We've had several declines for dues. Fortunately, about half of them have already paid, you know, for it. But the rest of the people that have been declined on the dues, basically, they're being kicked out of the club. It's been over a year now, and I try to get a hold of them, and they never answer back, and so it just is. It does impact us. I mean, this time it was about $1,000 we lost because of it. Now, like I said, we recovered about half of that, but it really makes it hard on us, and when we're right on that border for the bottom line for the club, it could make the difference of us making it past to being a profit to losing. And when we go down and below the line, that's when the Air Force raises their eyebrows and starts thinking about maybe they should shut us down. So please, if your credit card has been compromised or it's been changed or you get a new credit card, please let me know. Fortunately, for those of you who have expiration dates that end, but the credit card number does not change, the Air Force system still takes that card. So, you know, it's not as critical when your expiration date goes past, for the dues, that is. And but they do like to have it updated. And I did send an email out to everybody that did have the expiration dates that were coming up due. So just pay attention to your credit card and just keep me in the loop. I guess Bob wanted me to talk about, let's see, 5.7 is in the final stages with the prop installation and annual completion. It needs an annual, I know that, obviously. We are still planning for November 11th flying parades and services with a minimum of 3 aircraft. Plan is for, oh yeah, we're planning on 4. 555 is waiting the latest info as to the wing off for repair. They found some corrosion in the wheel, so they took the second wing off, so now both wings are off of it. 234 Whiskey Papa, the prop governor was removed and replaced for RPM check. New plugs and fuel leak repair appear to help the performance of the aircraft. So for those of you that fly the airplane, just keep us, you know, abreast of what's going on with the aircraft. Okay, one other item. We're going to try to do, again, Christmas party at Pinnacle Peaks, like we've done in the last 2 years, I think it is. We actually have a lot of fun. We really do. You can look at some of the pictures on the wall from the past. The question will be, what would be a good time for this, for you guys? You know, just either email me, call me, or next time you call or come in, say, I don't remember what all the dates are, but, December, 15th, would be a good day, or something like that. December, I think Christmas falls right at the last week. Sometimes we have to modify this meeting because of Christmas. Oftentimes, if it does fall during the same week as Christmas, we won't have this meeting the third Tuesday. But I think this year it does not fall during that week. So I think we'll have it the week prior. Oftentimes, as a general rule, this meeting comes out kind of small around Christmas time, but that's understandable. Okay, that's all I think Bob wanted me to talk about. Okay. Let's see. Jason here brought his kids, trying to get them interested in getting their pilot's licenses, right? Right? Yeah. Yeah. Get after your dad. Yeah. And let's see if there's anything else I can think of. Okay. Let's see. Cody, yeah, did you have anything to say from Wing Safety?
The only thing is this weekend, if you're going to be around, we have our nuclear exercise going on. So if you're heading down Graber Street, might be some detours. So plan on spending an extra couple minutes trying to get to the Aero Club office. That's about it.
Okay. All right.
Hang out and watch air crews run around the airfield trying to figure out
Try
how to
and
get from one place to their aircraft.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And introduce yourself to him. He's our wing safety guy.
David
And
Cody, tanker pilot here in March. So if you have any questions, probably hang around afterwards for a little while. And we've been flying tankers here for about 12 years. I'm the safety rep, as you just said. That's about it.
and don't forget the sign. It's on the second sheet.
Yeah, it's about 50-50%
Yeah.
of the time I sign it.
Yeah, so usually I try to get it at the front page, but Bob printed it out this time, and I wasn't there to supervise it to get it, keep it up front. So, okay. Sometimes what we do is we go real quick over the SOPs. That's just to make you guys familiar. The SOPs, actually, they call them now operational instructions now, and then we'll go into our main subject, which tonight is wake turbulence. Okay. Now I just noticed. Chris, stand up and introduce yourself.
All right. Well, my name's Chris Brown. I'm the new flight instructor over at the Aero Club. I currently have been flying for about 6 years, did all my flight training out in Salt Lake City, and just got hired, I don't know, a month ago or something like that.
Yeah, and signed the contract yesterday.
So, you know, for all the annual checkouts and, you know, stuff like that, you're more than welcome to fly with me or anything of that nature. So, if you have any questions or anything, just contact me after. Welcome.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Okay, let's see. Wait a minute. Nope, not here tonight. Good. Okay, and this thing is making that noise again. Okay, real quick, for those of you that were at the last meeting, we finished the SOP, so now we're going to start all over again, Chapter 1. Basically, what this does is the second or third paragraph there. That's talking about membership responsibilities. You might want to look at that again. It's also on that sheet of paper that you signed when you first joined the Aero Club, membership responsibilities. So that statement is on there too. So I suggest to read it because it talks about the parameters that we have and what we expect from you and vice versa. The big thing is that this is a membership club, and this is not like the club over at the O Club and the Enlisted Club or the All Ranks Club. This is a membership club, which is a lot different. You actually, your money, your dues, is what supports the Aero Club, a good portion of it, and because of that, we also, you can come in and work with us, and you are covered. You can help. Although David sometimes would rather be there when you go down, but he doesn't mind having you there. Help him a little bit on his maintenance, or just cleaning up the place. Bill Cooper and Joan, they've just been absolute wonderful in helping us, and of course James G, David G's brother, been wonderful, and just in the maintenance side, it's just been absolutely incredible. And then of course that's not talking about David, who of course ramrods the whole thing. He's down there as he literally ramrods these guys, so he's a tyrant, yeah. But anyhow, the whole thing is that just remember, you know, that a lot of people don't understand that concept. It's a club. It's not just some kind of an organization where you guys just get to go out and fly. So because of that, you are also responsible in keeping the airplanes clean. You're responsible in doing, you know, whatever it is, including the office. Sometimes I walk in the office in there and I find the trash can literally overflowing with Coke cans and everything else, and every once in a while we'll find a oil can in the trash can. And that's a huge no-no. I mean, if EPA people saw that, we'd have our doors closed. We wouldn't be able to afford the $15,000 fine, and I think it's higher than that now. And that's just on the Air Force Base. So, yeah, it's your club. Okay, saying all that, wake turbulence, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And I'll show the video here in about after a couple of,
Turn this down a little bit first.
yeah, turn that down just for now.
I don't want to blast the kids over in the next room.
Really? Oh, they can take it. They're Jason's kids. You know, they Iron Man, right? Okay. All right. This is the problem with this computer. These are scenarios that took place of pilots that ended up getting in wake turbulence. And a pilot of a 182, Cessna 182, was executing a visual flight, VFR approach into runway 32 at Salt Lake City. The pilot reported that that he was instructed by ATC to proceed direct to the numbers of the runway and passed behind a Boeing that was on final approach to runway 35. Okay, the Cessna pilot reported that while on final approach, the aircraft experienced a burble, and then the nose pitched up, and the aircraft suddenly rolled 90 degrees to the right, and the pilot immediately put in full left deflection of rudder and aileron to full down with the elevator in an attempt to level the aircraft and to get the nose down. As the aircraft began to respond to the correct altitude, the pilot realized that he was near the ground and pulled the yoke all the way back into his lap. And of course the airplane crashed, but he got out of it. Okay. He actually did some things in the right manner that probably kept him from getting killed. Some of the other ones I'll talk about here are not so fortunate. The approach ends of runway 32 and 35 are about 560 feet apart. Okay. While I'm talking about this, think about our big runway and our little runway. Okay. I'll get to that a little bit later. The wind was about 5 knots from the south, so it wasn't much wind. But actually, you find out that's actually a little more dangerous. Radar showed that the Cessna was at an altitude of less than 100 feet above the ground when it crossed the flight path of the 757. The 757 had passed the crossing position about 38 seconds prior to the Cessna 182. So, okay, a little closer to home, T-34.
Wait, I had a question.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that have been on ATC?
Would that have been on ATC?
Yeah.
No, because,
I mean, that
well,
didn't seem like a whole
they
lot
could
there.
be it could be contributory, I suppose. But in almost everything I read about wake turbulence, they put it right squarely on the eyes of the pilot. And that because you see, ATC may tell you to do something, but it's your responsibility to figure out if it's safe or not. And that's the catch-22 in that. And that goes for anything, that they tell you to do. Let's see, on a beautiful day in the Northern Rockies, a Beech T-34 pilot was returning to the scenic McCall, Idaho after a 2-hour flight. he began monitoring the common tower frequency a little over 5 miles from the airport and sequenced the airplane and the traffic on the left downwind for runway 34. He was following an Aviant Husky. Descending on final, the pilot noticed the Husky had slowed considerably before touching down right at the runway's threshold. The pilot continued the approach, but the Husky was slow on exiting the runway before he touched down. So he decided to execute a go-around, which was a good thing. Just as he added power, the T-34 rolled to the left, and the aircraft lost about 50 feet of altitude. The pilot struggled to get the wings level and stop the altitude loss, but immediately therefore the aircraft rolled to the right and then fell another 20 feet onto a gravel blast pad about 200 feet short of the runway. The NTSB determined that the pilot failed to take adequate remedial action in an attempt to fly out of the encounter with the vortex turbulence created by the preceding aircraft. This isn't the first pilot who has fallen victim to wake turbulence. This certainly. I mean, you read about it all the time, even now. The surprising thing about this accident, the ability of a relatively small airplane like a Beaver or Husky to generate wake sufficient to roll a T-34. So in other words, don't let size necessarily get you comfortable. You guys that fly any of our airplanes, of course, especially the Cessnas, but even the T-34s, don't get comfortable just because the airplane in front of you might be an airplane that doesn't seem to be, would be a problem to you. That's the point on that one. Okay, everybody likes to do this. This is how your dad flies his airplane, just like that.
With them.
With them, yeah. I figured, yeah. Okay, now this is where we need sound. This video is specific for one airport which has 757s that can go into it. However, the point that it talks about is very pointed and it gets right down to the facts, a whole lot better than what I could do in trying to explain to you about wing vortexes. So I'm going to go ahead and run it and we'll see if we get the sound. And it takes a couple of minutes for... Good. You have to get through some of the advertising. Yeah.
In 1998, a Beechcraft Baron was following a Boeing 757 with approximately 3 to 5 miles separation. Air traffic control warned the Baron pilot 3 times with the phrase we hear so often, "Caution, wake turbulence." The Boeing 757 made a standard touchdown approximately 1,000 feet down the runway. While the Baron remained high during the approach, the pilot attempted a steep, short final approach to land approximately 700 feet down the runway. The aircraft experienced wake turbulence, immediately rolled 90 degrees, and crashed. The introduction of the Boeing 757 to the FedEx route into Grand Forks provides both UND instructors and students an excellent opportunity to review the PTS Special Emphasis Area of wake turbulence avoidance. This safety bulletin will review some of the safety precautions and recommendations for avoiding wake turbulence, as well as some techniques for surviving an encounter. The Boeing 757 has earned itself a reputation for strong wake vortices. The wing flap geometry, performance, and size of the 757 all contribute to its ability to produce strong vortices. Because of this, the FAA mandates greater heavy aircraft separation minimums, despite many variants of the 757 not necessarily classifying as heavy. Without proper precautions and separation, the vortices generated by this aircraft have been a contributing factor in numerous accidents and incidents involving aircraft ranging from the Cessna 152 even to the Boeing 737. Needless to say, wake turbulence from any large aircraft is not something to be trifled with. Wake turbulence, specifically wingtip vortices, start with the production of lift. High pressure is developed below the wing, while low pressure is developed above the wing. The tendency of any pressure system is to equalize and achieve balance. As an aircraft moves forward through the air, it energizes this flow, enhancing the vortex motion. High pressure wraps around to equalize with the lower pressure above the wing, creating a swirling vortex trailing behind the aircraft. In fact, vortices are created from any surface producing lift. This process starts as an aircraft rotates during takeoff and continues until the aircraft lands. According to the AIM, or Airman's Information Manual, the strength of the vortex is governed by the weight, speed, and shape of the wing of the generating aircraft. With the weight being the main contributing factor, heavier aircraft will have stronger vortices. As an aircraft produces wingtip vortices, these areas of intense circulation will descend and appear to trail away from the aircraft. This creates a predictable area where the pilot must visualize and avoid wake turbulence. In properly visualizing this area, the pilot must also account for the effects of wind. Generally, strong winds will help dissipate vortices. Light breezes, however, can gently push these vortices. Light crosswinds can move the hazardous vortex directly onto the runway. Especially hazardous are light quartering tailwinds that not only push the vortex onto the runway, but guide it further down the runway than normally anticipated. While pilots are trained to always use a headwind, busy airports may have a preferred runway of choice and continue to use this runway in light tailwind conditions. While all aircraft produce wingtip vortices, air traffic control will advise pilots when the aircraft they are following is likely to create a hazard with the phrase, "Caution, wake turbulence." Once issued, it is the pilot's responsibility to visualize and avoid areas where wake turbulence may be suspected. In addition, air traffic controllers are required to maintain certain spacing between aircraft to avoid wake turbulence encounters. At a controlled airport, ATC will hold a small aircraft departing behind a 757 at least 2 minutes or 5 miles worth of separation. If flying near or landing behind a 757, 5 mile separation is the minimum. Uncontrolled fields like Spencer Municipal in Iowa serve a number of business jets and turboprops such as the Beech King Air 200. While these aircraft may not produce as strong of vortices as the Boeing 757, they still pose a hazard to other aircraft. The pilot in command is charged with the responsibility and authority to maintain safe and proper separation. Failure to do so can be catastrophic. The hazards of a wake turbulence encounter result from the uncommanded upset of an aircraft already stable in flight. These upsets can be insidious and gradual, or they can be immediate and attention-grabbing. The best way to survive these encounters is to avoid them altogether. If a pilot does become entangled in vortices, the success of escaping these encounters depends upon the decisions of the pilot and the capabilities of the aircraft. If the pilot expects that turbulence or an uncommanded roll is due to wake turbulence, it is important that the pilot immediately changes course or completes a go-around to avoid a further encounter. An encounter with wake turbulence can occur in any phase of flight. Even during cruise, there have been reports of aircraft experiencing turbulence from larger aircraft after crossing below their flight path. The following mitigation techniques will focus on avoiding the most hazardous of these encounters, takeoffs and landings. If a large aircraft departs in front of a UND Cessna 172, the 172 must take off before the point that that aircraft rotates to avoid its wake. The good news is, most jets will use a good portion of the runway. All of the aircraft at UND, from the American Champion Super Decathlon to the Cessna 172 to the Piper Seminole, and even our King Air 90s, should use less runway than a 757 under most circumstances. Once in the air, however, you must either climb at a greater gradient, meaning your climb angle, or you must change course. When compared to similar aircraft, the 757 has excellent performance and will be difficult to outclimb even in one of UND's Cessna 172s. If we take a moment to analyze some performance numbers, it's easy to see that outclimbing a 757 will be difficult under most conditions. While exact climb performance is dependent upon many factors, anecdotally, the 757 can achieve climb rates near 4,500 feet per minute. Assuming no wind, even at 3,000 feet per minute with an airspeed of 250 knots, the climb gradient is approximately 720 feet per nautical mile. To attain this, the Cessna 172 would have to maintain approximately 890 feet per minute at VY, and a Piper Warrior about 950 feet per minute at VY. During approach and landing, it is critically important to maintain flight at or above the preceding aircraft. If a heavy aircraft flies a high approach, the only way to avoid wake turbulence is to also fly a high approach. However, commercial aircraft will typically follow visual glide slope indicators such as VASIs or PAPIs. When following a large aircraft on approach, use these ground-based indicators by positioning your airplane on an approach that yields higher than normal indications such as 3 white lights and 1 red light when following a PAPI. If your runway of intended landing has an operable ILS, even under visual conditions you can back up your approach using the ILS to fly at least 1 dot high on the approach if following an aircraft that is suspected of producing wake turbulence.
Okay, you notice there was a couple of things in there that he said that, remember we talked about pilot being responsible. Well, you know, you mentioned that. Once they tell you, you know, beware of, you know, or you have wake turbulence, then, you know, you are now held responsible. Now, of course, they're held responsible for the separation. But it's like what Bob said earlier this afternoon when we were talking about this, is that, you know, what their separation is, you know, if they say 5 minutes, and if you can, try to make it more like 6 minutes, you know, something like that. Don't take any chances. I have a video in here. I'm not going to show it to you, but there's a video in there on what the FAA did some tests at altitude with it was a 727, FAA 727, and a 737, and they both flew right and trailed with each other on purpose to see just what would happen. And you ought to see the pictures of that 737 get hit by that wake turbulence. He just, boom, I mean, he just went like this. It just, you know, came out, and then of course he recovered because they were at altitude. Many years ago, as a flight engineer, I was flying with the Air Force C-141, and we were in a 10-ship formation operation with 10 141s, and we were number 8, and we were about 1,000 feet, or actually about 800 feet off the ground, dropping troops off the back of the airplane. It was at night, and I'm glad it was, because when we hit the wake turbulence of the airplanes in front of us, we went full 90 degrees like that. And fortunately, the aircraft commander, who at that time was a lieutenant colonel, he became a general later on, but Seahorn, he got the airplane back up, and of course the first thought was, did somebody, we hoped that it didn't happen when there was somebody jumping out the back. And unfortunately, the loadmaster came up and said, no, the last guy had left the airplane before that had happened. And when we got on the ground, I came up to Seahorn and I said, you know, you know, how close were we? And he says, you know, I don't really care. He said, I'm just glad it was nighttime, we didn't see. You know, because when we went like that, you know, we did lose altitude, but he was able to recover, and we came out of it. But that was probably the scariest I've ever seen, as far as obviously personally myself with, you know, vortexes. Let's see. There was a couple other things I was going to bring up too. I should have took notes. Anybody have any questions as far as what the film talked about? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it was it was an excellent training film. I have another one on here too that was a little more boring. It wasn't. It was just very straight talk, but it also is excellent too. In some ways, you know, I mean, you look at it and you go, gee, I don't know if I want to fly now, you know, but no, actually what it did for me is that it made me feel like when I go out there I had a little more information as to keep out of this kind of stuff. Now, you may ask, well, gee, you know, I fly out of here, we're over here on runway 30, and then we land over there at Riverside or Hemet and those places, and we don't have any big jets that fly in there. Well, first off, remember, it doesn't matter how big the airplane is. I know at French Valley you got these jets that fly in there, and they have they have wingtip vortices too. Believe me, and it can affect you. It can affect you. However, what kind of airplanes do we have here on March Field? Yeah, we got C-17s and KC-135s, and you have Cody back up there flying his airplane, and totally oblivious of you flying out there. And
airspace, darn it. Just kidding, just kidding.
Yeah. No, actually, they've yielded me. I mean, had me before a C-17 a couple of times. Of course, the problem is I knew the aircraft commander, and he razzed me for a month after that. But anyhow, okay, let me get to the point up here. Most of this stuff is just a repeat of what we saw in the film. And unless you got questions specifically on how a vortex is created, I'll pass through this stuff here.
For that explanation, the number 2 situation, clean wing, low speed, big jets don't fly clean wing, low speed. They put out a lot more wing bordas when they're dirty and the power's back up. A lot of bigger airplanes fly backside on their approach, and so the power's all the way in. They're blowing all that exhaust through
Yeah.
the wing.
Yeah.
That's what got the in and out guys down at Orange County, because the plane was dirty and it was looking at the stuff.
Yeah.
C-17, same thing, backside 4 engines, pushing, you know, probably 50% of what that engine puts out is coming out of that thing. Especially when they try to stop the descent doing their landings out there.
Yeah.
Putting a lot more wind out of that thing with the vortices and with the other guys. So I never understood that. It didn't make any sense.
Well,
The newer airplanes, so.
yeah. Now, according to the article I read, it said that though dirty airplanes tend to not produce as much vortex because of all that. It does not produce as much wing vortex as an airplane that's clean. And the reason why is because when the flaps are down and when the engines are up and they're coming in, it tends to break it up more. That's what the article said.
You saw the videos when they showed those airplanes with smoke generating on them.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
nasty.
yeah, I know. And here's the thing is that and a lot has to do with just the way first off, you're not going to have an airplane probably clean anyhow when you're coming in for a landing. They're all going to be with the flaps down, and then they put their thrust reversers out. One of the things that talked about in there is that if that nose wheel is up in the air, they're producing vortexes. So that's one of the things you want to look for. It's just, if you see that nose come up at all, then you know that the vortexes are being produced. Let's see. Okay, this is still on that. I'm going to get to the... Okay, here we go. All right, some things to think about here in runway 30. Okay, what we got here is that we got 2 runways that they don't really parallel each other. They kind of come at an angle, and as we all know. And one of the things that we see on this thing is that we've got up here, right here, okay, and then you got this up here. Right here to here, it's 1,564 feet from the center line of that runway to the center line of our runway. Down here, it's 2,189 feet separation, okay? Now, right up here, there is a possibility that we could get, you know, vortexes coming across, being blown across over here. You can get it here too, depending on the wind, and just, you know, just what, you know, how the wind is blowing and so forth. Now they said in the film that if the wind is, the stronger the wind, the less the vortices stay together. Or vortexes rather, they kind of split up. And yeah, I suppose that's true, but I still would be kind of cautious about it. Here's a little thing to think about. Do you see that blue arrow down there? If you can see it, it's down at the very bottom. A lot of the C-17s, when they take off, especially when they're light, you know, a lot of them are off the ground by around in here. And of course, once the nose wheel leaves the ground, they're creating the vortexes. So there is a possibility that they could blow those things over onto our runway over there. That's something you might want to think about. Let's see. This is the upper end. Landing with a larger aircraft flying on 3-2 parallel runway is closer than 2,500 feet. A lot of, I think it's like 1,500 feet, I think is what they were saying. Anything beyond that point, you're probably not going to get enough to where it's going to affect you. But anything less than 1,500 feet, which our runway 1-2 end is, it's about 1,500 feet. It's very possible you could run into it. Also, too, you may want to take in consideration when you take off, did a C-17 or a KC-135 just take off from that runway? Now, the tower is not supposed to give you clearance right away. They're supposed to give you a break, you know, that 3-minute break. But you might want to wait a little bit. But just realize, you know, when you're taking off from runway 30 and you just had any one of the heavies taking off on that big runway, and we have a lot of commercials, and we have 757s that come in here too. That wind, when you come up there, it's very possible, especially if you're going to go over Lake Matthews and you turn left, you could go right through that wake turbines. It's very possible it could happen. It's just something to think about.
I felt that a few times. Definitely some bumps.
Yeah, I've had burbles. Yeah, yeah. Just like I said here, the tower will probably not have you taking off right after C-17 or KC-135, but you know, it doesn't. A lot has to do with how your winds are. Obviously, if you got strong winds, a lot of you guys aren't going to fly anyhow. I mean, I know some of you don't want to fly when you get strong winds, but you know, it's you know, when you got light winds, 5 or below, you know, they could cause a problem, because that's one of the problems. If you have light winds like that, that's when you have those wingtip vortexes. Okay. You know, if you hear them call heavy, you know, I know in the 141 it was interesting. We were supposed to say heavy every time, even though we weren't. I mean, if we were heavy, yeah, obviously, but when we didn't have any cargo in the airplane and everything was light, you know, we really were below that, but we still had to say heavy, no matter what. Okay, this is just some of the stuff I just talked about. This is just what I was saying, you know, on our runway down there, that's just the way the vortexes could just be blown right over. And of course, if you're making a landing onto runway 30, that's another thing to think about. You know, you got because you're down on that end where the airplanes do lift off, especially if they're going the other way. Although hopefully, you know, you're going the same direction that they do. But it can, you know, you could go right through the middle of that stuff. And that's something you may want to be thinking about. Fortunately, for the most part, on this base, we do not have that many of the heavies flying in and out of here like a commercial airport. Most of the time we have our own little private airport here with a tower, and it's kind of neat. We actually have one of the best kept secrets of having this club being here. Any club that's on an Air Force base for the most part, because most of the time we don't have to argue too much with the heavies. But you know, when they are out there, then you need to be very much aware of this stuff. And we could have a tendency of getting a little bit laxed on it because we're on a field that's huge and we got runways spread apart. There's always that possibility that you could run into this. Oh, let's see. This is just all the same stuff that I've been talking about. You know, take off. Yeah, and I'm glad that they talked a little bit about taking off prior to the heavy taking off. I talked to Dave and told him he needs to soup up the engines a little bit more so we can climb out to you know, at that 4,500, you know, rate. I know David said he'll try, but he says he'll put JATO bottles, which are those little jet bottles on there, you know, or something like that. But anyhow, yeah, if you know that you're going to run into something like that, you know, just make sure that you get yourself off to the side someplace and just go the other direction. Just tell Tower that you just want to go, you know, to Palm Springs. Do something to get out of the area, if it becomes a problem. Let's see. Oh yeah, and they do a lot of touch and goes here. And one of the things they do is they'll come down, they'll get on the runway, and then they kind of reset everything for the next takeoff. And while when the nose wheel's on the ground, it's fine. But the problem is that as soon as that nose wheel lifts off, and they use a lot of runway. They use that runway, they get down there quite a ways, and then they lift off. So be aware of that too. Now, big thing here to pay attention here on March also. Customs and the sheriff's helicopters, okay? Customs, all of you know that they got the helicopters out there. That can also be a danger too. Helicopters have that downwash, and they also, once they start moving forward, they also start producing wingtip vortexes. And so, take a wild guess what the sheriff's helicopter who comes out here and practices on, what runway they practice on our runway. So if you happen to see a sheriff's helicopter out there doing their auto gyration, I think that's how you say it, right, Malcolm?
Auto rotation.
Rotation, that's it. Thanks, Malcolm. He's our expert. When they do that, you know, and then they take off again, and you're taking off on runway 30, the tower may just clear you. They may not even be thinking about it. I don't know. I don't know if the tower, I'm sure that they're privy to it, but just be careful with that helicopter when they're out there doing that. And then the customs, oftentimes they'll have them take off just before they even get there, but sometimes they have them go out to our runway and take off from there. So just be aware. It's flying is fun, and it can be very safe, but be situationally aware. I can't overemphasize that. Situationally aware means knowing your surroundings at all times. When you're in that cockpit of the airplane, you must be totally aware of what's happening. And then when you get home, then take your nap. But don't do it out here running your engine on the airplane. Let's see, any questions? Okay. I'm actually finishing 4 minutes early. I don't think there's anything else. So, come on, go. Okay, that was it. All right, next meeting is 18 November. That's the week prior to Thanksgiving. And we'll talk about the the Christmas party. Kind of let me know when you think you might want to do it. You know, we do it at Pinnacle Peaks. You do pay on your own because we can't afford to pay everybody's. That'd be all our dues gone. But it's a lot of fun. We do give away presents. Yeah, we do that. Yes, and so make sure you have signed the sheet, and we'll see you next month or tomorrow or